Morning, everyone. We've got some early arrivals, but we've got another minute to go, so we'll just let people join. Okay, that's a minute past, so I think we'll just get started for all of you that have joined us, and we might get some other people coming in. So, good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Michelle Crombie. I'm the Corporate Strategy and Community Planning Manager. I'm responsible for community planning and locality planning within Aberdeen. So it's great to have so many of you signed up and joining us for this webinar today. We've arranged this so we can bring you up to speed with the changes we've made to our local outcome improvement plan and locality plans this year. So the term of the current local outcome improvement plan, or LOIP as we also know it, is 2016 to 26. And the changes we've made this year are the result of a refresh process that we go through every 2 to 3 years to make sure that the 10-year LOIP and our area-based locality plans continue to be relevant and responsive to the current needs across the city. And you'll appreciate that since the plans were first developed in 2016, there have been a lot of changes to our local context that have had an impact, of course, on our priorities. So Brexit, COVID-19, cost of living crisis are probably the big obvious examples. So we're now in the 8th year of the LOIP, and this will be the last refresh process that we go through now before we come to the end of the current 10-year term, which is 2026. So a really important couple of years ahead of us to push forward with the change activity that we believe will see us achieve those longer term aims that we set for 2026 when we were first developing that plan. And it gives us an opportunity to understand the impact that we've had over that 10-year period in improving outcomes for people and communities. So I've got Alison and Jade, who have led on the refresh process this year, joining me this morning. So they'll talk you through the key changes and priorities for the last 2-year remaining of the current plans. And I'll let them introduce themselves properly. For those of you that are less familiar with the LOIP and locality plans, they'll also do a bit of a refresher of why we do community planning in the city and why we have these plans. So Alison, if you just pass on to the next slide, I'll just outline the outcomes for today. And those are to ensure that we've got a shared understanding of what community planning is in Aberdeen. I think there's probably different interpretations of what community planning is and who's involved. So we'll go over that. We'll explain how it's planned and delivered in Aberdeen City. Obviously, we want to increase awareness and understanding of the LOIP and locality plans, specifically the changes that we've made this year as part of the refresh. And we also just want to raise your awareness of how you can get involved. Community planning is a process that is open to anyone across our partner organisations and communities, and there's different ways that you might want to feed into that process. So we'll share them with you today. So now I will just pass over to Alison to get us started.
Thanks, Michelle. Hi, everybody. My name is Alison Swanson, and I'm the Improvement Programme Manager within the Community Planning team. So as Michelle said, I'm going to take us through the first part of today's session covering community planning and the Local Outcome Improvement Plan. So some of you may already be familiar with community planning, but wanted to start by giving that brief overview so that we all leave today's session with the same and that shared understanding as to what community planning is. So community planning is about how public services work together to design and deliver better services that make a difference to people's lives. It's based on the truth that we can tackle difficult problems better by working together than we can do alone. It absolutely doesn't replace the individual organisation responsibilities, but it does drive improvement by placing a duty on our local public services to work together on those shared priorities to improve outcomes for and with people across the city, with especially a focus on those who are most in need. It also encourages close working with our third sector colleagues and our communities. All councils in Scotland are required to have a community planning partnership in place, and this was formalised by the Community Empowerment Scotland Act in 2015. In Aberdeen, our community planning partnership is called Community Planning Aberdeen. So as well as the duty on all public sector partners to work together to improve outcomes, under the Community Empowerment Act, we have a number of other duties that we are due to comply with. So those are just as detailed on the slide there. We have a duty to publish a Local Outcome Improvement Plan, our LOIP, which sets out our citywide priorities for improvement, a duty to publish our locality plans, targeting those communities who experience the poorest outcomes, and a duty to enable our communities to participate. And we'll cover all of those today. So I said in Aberdeen, our partnership is called Community Planning Aberdeen, and on the slide here you can see our core member organisations. So at present, Community Planning Aberdeen has 12 core members, and they are a mix of both statutory and non-statutory partner organisations. However, those are just the organisations that sit on our CPA management group and board. We work with many other organisations and community groups through our various outcome improvement groups and improvement projects. We also work in partnership with our communities and businesses in improving outcomes in our priority areas. Jade will discuss later our work with communities, and on the slide you can see some of the businesses we are working with as part of our Responsible Business Network. So to comply with those duties, Community Planning Aberdeen has agreed the structure that you can see on the slide, and this is to ensure the development and delivery of our LOIP and locality plans. So this sees us at the very top there with our CPA board, which sets our strategic leadership and direction. We then underneath have our management group, which is chaired by Angela Scott, and that facilitates our effective joint working across the partnership and ensures the delivery of our plans remain on track. Then in the outer circle there, you can see we have what we call our outcome improvement groups. So we have 9 outcome improvement groups, and each is responsible for the delivery of their respective stretch outcomes and improvement aims, but also ensuring that they have the alignment with the underpinning locality plans. Then in the middle there, we have our locality empowerment groups and our priority neighbourhoods, who have supported the development and delivery of the locality plans, which Jade will cover. So now let's look at our Local Outcome Improvement Plan and why we have refreshed it this year. So as Michelle said, our first LOIP was published in August 2016. It's a 10-year plan covering 2016 to 2026, and we have refreshed it every 2 to 3 years since that time. A central theme across the LOIP is about addressing the inequalities that exist in the city. So we all know that the environment people in Aberdeen live in is ever changing, and during 2021 to 2023, people, our families, our communities, our businesses were continuing to recover from the COVID-19, as well as dealing with the rising cost of living. Like all areas of Scotland, public services in Aberdeen are facing increasing demand and reducing resources. So it's important that the partnership on a regular basis are reflecting and understanding the emerging trends and determining if our current priorities continue to respond to local need. As well as that changing environment, our improvement programme and our improvement aims also work on the basis of a 2-year cycle. And that is to ensure that we're being innovative, that we're testing our improvements at pace, but also making sure that we're measuring our impact that we're having with those changes. So in line with that, our LOIP was due to be refreshed for the final time before 2026, which will see us come to the end of the current 10-year plan. And at that point, we'll have a new 10-year plan produced. So looking at the process for refreshing our LOIP this time, the process was very much data and insight led, and the key stages to that process are detailed on the slide here. The refresh commenced in April 2023 when we had the revision of our children and young people section of the LOIP, and that was following approval of the revised Children's Services Plan. We then had our annual reports against both the LOIP and the locality plans, and that really provided the clarity as to what Community Planning Aberdeen had achieved since the LOIP had been refreshed in 2021. To coincide with the annual reports, we had the development of our population needs assessment, and that provided the evidence base and supported our outcome improvement groups to understand the emerging trends and if our current priorities continued to respond to local need. But we all know that the data only shows part of the picture, and engagement was a key part of our process. So we held a public engagement exercise, and that was based on the National Place Standard tool. So that helped us understand if our current priorities were still the right areas to focus on, but it also helped us discover what things were good now in the city, as well as the improvements that people thought we should prioritise on for the future of our plan. So once we had our initial proposals developed, we then held thematic stakeholder sessions for both our stakeholders and our community members, and that was to give us feedback on those emerging proposals that were coming out. Throughout the process, our outcome improvement groups have provided their professional judgment on the proposals coming forward, and public health have also played a big part in the process this year, providing a narrative for our population needs assessment and also doing a review of the proposed LOIP in advance of it being published. So as a result of that extensive process, we now have the refreshed LOIP and locality plans, which were approved in April this year. So what is in the refresh plan? So our vision remains the same, a place where all people can prosper, regardless of a person's background or circumstances. But what has changed to help us achieve that vision? So in our previous LOIP, we had 3 strategic themes, 15 stretch outcomes, and 82 improvement aims. Within the refreshed LOIP, we have 4 strategic themes of economy, people, place, and community empowerment, with 16 stretch outcomes and 97 improvement aims. So the stretch outcomes are our high-level priorities for improvement, and you can see the summarised version of those stretch outcomes on the slide there. Through our stretch outcomes, we are very clear about what we are trying to improve, by how much and by when, and I will show you our theory of change later in the session. But the stretch outcomes summarised on the slide there will give you an idea of the diverse range of issues that we are seeking to address and to improve. To achieve those stretch outcomes, we have 97 improvement project aims. So those are the projects that Community Planning Aberdeen believe will make a difference, and that the cumulative effect of these will be the achievement of our stretch outcomes. So just to pick on some of the headline changes in the refreshed LOIP. So firstly, we have a new strategic theme of community empowerment, and that really embeds the community empowerment strategy that the partnership had approved, so that that's throughout the LOIP. You can also see that community empowerment is shown as across all of the themes, and that's in recognition that community empowerment is an area that has to be cross-cutting and can't be done in isolation. In line with the new theme, we also have the inclusion of a stretch outcome 16, which focuses on 50% of people reporting that they are able to participate in decisions that help change things for the better by 2026. So that also aligns to the feedback from our engagement exercise, where influence and sense of control was the lowest scoring theme. And the addition of that stretch outcome demonstrates the partnership's commitment to working with individuals and community groups across the city. All of the stretch outcomes have been reviewed and reshaped as a part of that public engagement exercise and also on the basis of our population needs assessment. So in addition to the community empowerment change, the other notable changes I've highlighted in bold and underlined on the slide. So firstly, under the economy section, stretch outcome 3 in our previous LOIP was in relation to skills, and we had successfully achieved that stretch outcome. However, the data was showing us that the employment rate for the city had declined. So given the interconnected rifts of employment and skills and that overall employment data, the two stretch outcomes have been merged into one, and we now have a focus on increasing the employment rate with a range of projects focused on employment and skills sitting underneath. Under the people section, data showed us that our progress in reducing homelessness had stalled, with a 25% increase in homeless applications in 2022 to 2023. So in response to that, we see the addition of a new stretch outcome, which is focused on reducing homelessness by 10% and youth homelessness by 6%, ensuring it is rare, brief and non-recurring, with a longer-term ambition to end homelessness in Aberdeen. This also recognises that Aberdeen was selected to be one of the 6 flagship locations of the Homewards programme launched by Prince William and the Royal Foundation, and reflects Aberdeen's participation in that programme and commitment to reducing and ultimately ending homelessness in the city. The final bit I'm going to pick up in terms of key highlights and changes is under the place section. So a key theme that came out from our public engagement was in relation to the built environment. And in response to that, stretch outcome 15 has been amended so that it now has a focus and incorporates both the natural and the built environment. So that was just a kind of key whistle-stop tour in terms of those main changes that we've seen come through in this refreshed LOIP. Also, I'd said earlier that a central theme across the LOIP was about addressing the inequalities that exist across the city. And through the refresh, the partnership have aligned the stretch outcomes to both the social determinants of health, as you can see on the slide there, but also to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and doing so which will ultimately then support us in improving outcomes for the city. So you can see I mentioned that we'd have the addition of the built environment, which aligns to the social determinants of health, also the addition of our community stretch outcome and theme as well. So I'd mentioned that our LOIP is very focused, and for each stretch outcome that we're really clear about what we're trying to improve, by how much and by when. And I appreciate that on the previous slides, I'd just given you the abbreviations, the shortened versions of those stretch outcomes. So I wanted to show you the theory of change so you can see how that looks in our LOIP document. So for each stretch outcome, as you can see with the example of stretch outcome 10 on the slide there, we detail our stretch outcome, so it's really clear here what it is we're trying to achieve and by when, and we have the baseline data detailed for that. After the stretch outcome, we then provide our key drivers to achieving that stretch outcome. And then you can see that we have our specific improvement project aims that we're trying to achieve to support the achievement of the stretch outcome. So as within the previous versions of our LOIP, our aims are very clear and specific about what we're trying to achieve, by how much and by when, in the same way that our stretch outcomes are. And we provide baseline data at the outset so that supports that case. I also said that reducing inequalities was a key aspect, and you can see then the next column is that we have our target population. So this clarifies which projects will be tested on a citywide basis and which will be targeted at specific communities of interest to support reducing inequalities. But that column also supports the linkages between our citywide LOIP and the read across with our underpinning locality plans. The partnership this year is also very focused on committing the shift to the balance towards prevention and early intervention. And this year we've also included the breakdown for each improvement aim as to where it sits in that intervention tier. You can see on the slide here that of the 97 projects, 37 are prevention focused, 51% early intervention and 12% response. Finally, and that final column is about our lead partner. So it's really important that we have committed leadership of all the projects and that we have all of our partners playing a role. So that final column ensures that at the outset of the LOIP, when approved, that we have that commitment for leading those individual projects. So I mentioned obviously that we've got 97 projects, and I'm not going to go and talk through every 97 projects, but I do want to just go through some of the projects per the 4 strategic themes so that it gives you a sense of the diverse range of issues that we are working together towards. So firstly, our economy improvement aims. There are 2 stretch outcomes in the economy section of the LOIP with 13 projects. And the intent behind them is to reduce the number of people experiencing poverty and to support employment opportunities for all people in Aberdeen. So you can see some of the aims listed on the slide there, and you can see from there that they have a focus on ensuring that all people across the city can maximise their incomes and reduce their bills through access to food, fuel, shelter and finance. We're also working to support people into good quality and fair work opportunities, either through employment, starting up their own business, but also by upskilling our residents through skills and qualifications and training opportunities. In our people section, we have 10 stretch outcomes. 6 of those are focused on making sure that every child and young person in Aberdeen has equal opportunities to grow, develop and reach their full potential. And we have 32 improvement projects across those 6 stretch outcomes. The adult section has 4 stretch outcomes, all of which look to ensure that there are opportunities in place to enable all people to have positive, safe and successful lives. The 4 outcomes focus on increasing healthy life expectancy, decreasing the number of people reoffending, reducing the number of alcohol and drug-related deaths, and reducing overall homelessness. And we have 37 improvement projects across those 4 stretch outcomes to help us achieve those. Then, in terms of our place theme, we have 3 stretch outcomes in this section, and they cover reducing carbon emissions in the city, increasing sustainable travel, so that's about increasing walking, increasing cycling and wheeling, and reducing our car use. And then finally, the other stretch outcome is about looking after the places we live, with all places cared for and our buildings as well. We have 12 improvement projects that will help us achieve those stretch outcomes. And then finally, the community empowerment improvement aims. So there are 6 improvement projects within this section, and these include a focus on creating better conditions for collaboration, to social connectivity being encouraged and supported, to capacity building to enable empowerment. So that was just a range of the improvement projects that we have in place across the LOIP. You'll appreciate, though, that 97 aims is a lot to manage, and to implement those projects, we need to make sure that we're providing the right conditions for improvement. So our CPA management group have approved an improvement programme which ensures that we have a phased coordination approach to the initiation of those 97 projects, and also to the testing of the change ideas with and by our communities. This is to help ensure that the resources are being managed effectively and that no one partner or community group is overwhelmed by the number of projects or changes that are being tested. So to take forward our improvement aims, community planning is committed to using the quality improvement methodology. So that really ensures that our projects are using rapid cycle testing and testing on a really small scale to gather the data and gain confidence that those changes are the right things to be doing before we then scale that up on a citywide basis. That approach ensures that we are not committing resources on a citywide basis until we really know that that change is effective and having the outcomes that we had anticipated. So to support our project managers in the delivery of our improvement projects, we have a programme of capacity building support for project managers and their team. And that programme is available on our website, and our quality improvement boot camps are open to you all to attend. So now that we have our refreshed LOIP and our projects being initiated, it's really important that we're being open and transparent in our reporting and ensuring that there are opportunities for all to be involved. So we recently launched a new Community Planning Aberdeen website, and on that website we have an improvement project dashboard, which you can see on the slide there. So this dashboard ensures that for all members of the public and for all organisations, you can go on there at any time and see the current status of our projects. So you can see initially that we have a chart which shows progress towards the overall stretch outcome, and then there's a chart for each of the projects under that theme. Where a project has been initiated, you'll see that we have the project charter. So that's the document that sets out their theory of change and what they plan to do. But we also have a project update section, and that tells you the latest status and the data available in relation to that project. So finally, for me, in terms of our projects, it's really important that we have as many people getting involved in supporting the delivery and the testing of those projects. So on our community planning website, we have a new section, which is our opportunities to get involved. And we really believe that everyone should have a chance to have their say and to participate to help change things for the better. And I hope, as you've seen with the 97 projects, covering such a wide, diverse areas, there are lots of opportunities for everybody to get involved. How you get involved is completely up to yourselves. There are many ways, from potentially sharing your ideas to helping design and to test some new improvements that are planned. So if you are interested in getting involved, I'd be encouraging you all to have a look at that Get Involved section on the website, and we'll send out the details later after the session. And if you can get in contact with us, we can discuss ways in which you can then participate in those projects. That's all from me, and I'm just going to pass you now over to Jade, who's going to look at our locality plans.
Thanks, Alison. Okay, so as well as the local outcome improvement plans, we also have refreshed our 3 locality plans which underpin the citywide LOIP. So locality plans reflect the joint working taking place between community planning partners and communities to deliver improved outcomes at a more localised level in a geographic area. The North, South and Central locality plans cover all of Aberdeen's 37 neighbourhoods, including those that we have determined to be priority neighbourhoods. We have 13 priority neighbourhoods across the North, South and Central localities, and these have been identified from the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation as the most deprived communities in Aberdeen and experience poorer outcomes compared to the other neighbourhoods in the city. We recognise that these neighbourhoods need additional support to take advantage of the opportunities that are available in Aberdeen for people and communities to be able to thrive and succeed. The locality plans ensure we're aware of and are tackling the inequalities which we all know exist across the city. The citywide data can mask pockets of deprivation and conceal communities and neighbourhoods which are experiencing poorer outcomes due to poverty. So we use both qualitative and quantitative data to have conversations with local people about what difference that they would like to see in their own areas. The locality plans drill down to the priorities of lots of different communities across the city and set out activities that local people want and need. It's often easiest for community groups to participate in community planning at a locality or neighbourhood level, where it has most relevance to their lives and circumstances. And we've got groups to support this, which I'll go on to talk about a bit later. So what has changed within the refresh? So the updated locality plans reflect a better use of available data to understand our current position and our potential for improvement, strengthened collaboration with community groups and local people, and revised priorities for localities and community ideas for change, which are informed by data and by community engagement locally. What do we know now? Like the local outcome improvement plan, each of our locality plans are structured around the themes of economy, people, place and community. Drilling down into locality and neighbourhood level data is very important so that we can understand the current levels of need. Across the 3 localities, we have included local level data at the beginning of each of the 4 themes to highlight the differences that exist between the wider locality and those of our priority neighbourhoods. This is really important to ensure that everyone living in the locality is aware of the challenges people face across neighbouring communities and how they might work together to make the improvements that can help everyone in the area especially those in greatest need. The data gives us a baseline position so that we can monitor to understand if we're achieving improvement and making things better for the people in the community. It can take a long time for us to see the improvement in some published data sets, such as child poverty and population health, but for others, we might see changes more quickly. For example, we use City Voice, our citizens panel, to ask people questions and gather their views and attitudes on issues that are important to them. And we can view the results by locality, neighbourhood, and other demographics such as age and ethnicity. And this helps us to respond to what people want and need. Qualitative data is also important, and that's what we gather by talking to local people. So one of the ways we talk to local people about community planning is through our community engagement groups, which I mentioned earlier. And we've set these up to make it easier for communities to get involved. So we have 3 locality empowerment groups, which cover the neighbourhoods in each of the localities. They're often referred to as the legs, and they're open to any community member or group within the locality that wish to get involved in shaping and deliver the locality plan. The Priority Neighbourhood Partnerships, also called the PNPs, have been set up in the most disadvantaged areas to support the communities to engage. The PNPs are also open to any community member or group within that priority neighbourhood. Some people are a member of the legs and the PNPs, which is great because then they can help raise awareness of what's going on and share good practice. So on the screen here is a kind of snapshot of all of the locality priorities, and each locality plan identified the key priorities of local people in their area. The wording of the priorities was agreed with the members of the locality empowerment groups and the priority neighbourhood partnerships. And this was important to give people a sense of ownership of their plans and a feeling that we've reflected what's important to them. And whilst you can see that there are differences across the 3 localities, there are also a great deal of commonality, which is not surprising. The reality is that many people are facing the same issues, and whilst it's important to understand the difference between the communities, it's equally important for us to understand the similarities so that we can learn from each other and identify the solutions that can work for everyone, as well as the targeted areas. The strategic themes of economy, people, place and community provide a framework for understanding the commonality across the 3 locality plans and also the alignment with the citywide local outcome improvement plan. The key priorities at a citywide and a locality level include, and you can see them on the screen here, under economy, reducing poverty and employability support. Under people, support for children and young people, mental health and wellbeing, and safe and resilient communities. Under place, maximise the use of spaces in communities, and finally under community, participation and involvement. So on the screen here is a kind of example of what a locality plan looks like on the inside from the South locality plan. And the alignment to the LOIP is made explicit within the locality plans to ensure that community planning partners are working together on common priorities. Across the locality plans, 60 community ideas have been aligned to 37 local outcome improvement plan improvement projects. So this, as I've said, is an example from the South locality plan. And on the left-hand side, you can see our community ideas. And as we work our way across, you can see that we've identified where these ideas might be tested. And throughout the refresh process, we identified the community partners we'd work with. And all the partners that you can see in the locality plans are partners that have agreed to be cited in the plans. Moving on, we've included the measures that will help us tell if we're making an improvement before finally linking to the projects within the LOIP that link to our community ideas. Behind the scenes, locality staff are connecting with community members, community groups and community planning partners to ensure that we're working together to test these ideas and make the best use of our local assets and resources. So finally, this is our locality planning team. We're a dedicated team that works together to coordinate locality planning across the city. So this is a cross-organisational team between Aberdeen City Council community development staff and also Aberdeen Health and Social Care Partnership public health coordinators. The team was established only last year to support community planning at a local level through the development of the locality plans. The team's also responsible for supporting the locality empowerment groups and the priority neighbourhood partnerships, as well as reaching out to wider groups and local people to ensure they have a voice in the locality planning process. The team is managed by myself and Ian from the Health and Social Care Partnership, and we have an oversight of the whole city. Other members of the locality planning team work in specific localities. So in the south, we've got Teresa Duffusay and Vibha Gakawad. In the north, we've got Kev Donald and Katie Cunningham. In central, we've got Graham Donald and Chris Smiley. And then last but not least, we've got Jenna Bissett, who works across all 3 localities, and she has a particular interest in work with young people. In addition, the team also have a thematic remit. So for example, our public health coordinators have a particular focus on health and well-being, but overall we work as a team and support each other in whichever way is needed. So that's a quick rundown of the locality planning team, and I'm now going to pass over to Michelle, who will finish the session for us.
Thank you very much, Alison and Jade, for your very clear presentations. Just a very brief couple of slides from me, and then we'll open it up to answer any questions that you've got. Just really wanted to start with next steps. So when we published the revised plans, which was actually back in April, so apologies for this webinar being a bit later in the year after summer. But we've already launched a communications plan, so we're delivering this webinar as part of those comms to ensure awareness of the revised plans across partners and communities. A really important element of community planning is that we're not just coalescing around our citywide LOIP, but then you can see the golden thread from that strategic level plan into the individual plans of our partner organisations. So they're making that alignment. I guess there's always a wee bit of variation between the timescales that organisations are working to develop their own strategic plans. So that's a process that they're going through to make sure that their refresh plans makes those links. Also, making a bit of a deliberate shift to use locality plans in this way. So over the last 8 years, we have definitely gone through a journey with our LOIP. It has got more and more embedded in the work of partner organisations, making alignment to those strategic priorities. The locality plans have been very area-based, and we've done a lot of work to bring community groups and members of the public with us in identifying their local priorities. Over the last couple of years, we've really tried to strengthen that connection with the work of the community planning partnership on the LOIP, and then those kind of community ideas that are going on in communities. We think that there's so much potential for the locality plans to really become a truly overarching plan for the area. There are lots of initiatives that are coming through government and locally where we're encouraging local people to develop their own types of plans. So whether that's local place plans, resilience plans, any kind of grassroots-led community action, there's an opportunity for the locality plans to reflect all of that activity. So it's really brought together in a strategic and coordinated way. And again, going back to Jade's point, that we're really maximising local resource, whether that's from partner organisations or community groups, people that want to make a change. So I think we're still on a bit of a journey to make sure that the locality plans are recognised in that way and that we're able to deliver the potential for those. I think support with community engagement and outreach is also a priority. Jade's talked through our legs and our PMPs today as forums that we support people to come around, but of course not everyone will have the time to join a priority neighbourhood partnership or a locality empowerment group meeting. They may be engaged in their group, so we need to find a way of connecting together without the need to join one or the other, so that we really are coming together around those shared priorities that are in the locality plan. So we'll continue to make sure that we do that outreach and make those connections. Improvement activity will feed into the LOIP improvement project, and progress will be reported to the Community Planning Aberdeen Board through our Community Planning Improvement Programme. Those are reports that go specifically to the board so they can understand the impact we're having as a community planning partnership, but it's also publicly available information, and the team are always looking at how we can make that information more accessible for either the community groups that we support or the wider community, so that they get a sense of what's going on. It's really important as well to help prevent any duplication that can occur. So again, another argument for really making sure that locality plan is an overarching plan. We'll carry on promoting the opportunities to get involved. As Alison says, it really is open to everyone. You want to get involved, we'll make it happen. So really, we want to raise awareness of that, but relying on you as well to be able to cascade that message, and also just to come back to us so we can think about how that can best happen if you're someone that wants to get involved. And a final point is we've talked a lot about getting to 2026. As part of the preparation for that point in time, we are currently undertaking a review of how we've been doing community planning in the city. We've set that out for you today. Our use of improvement methodology, our defined stretch outcomes, our work with community groups. What we want to challenge ourselves to do now is to think about whether that has had the impact that we had expected it to have by this point in the 10-year plan. Is there practice elsewhere in terms of community planning that we can look at and perhaps adopt? There's no one way of doing community planning. There's no one way of doing partnership work and working together. We've developed a model here that we are confident that does achieve improvement. We have the data to evidence the impact we've had, but I think we need to be open to whether there are better ways of doing things or enhancing what we've already got in place. So that review is going on at the moment, and going into next year, we'll already at that point start planning for that 2026 to 36 plan. So that will inform that. If we go on to the next slide, just some links there for you for more information, to access the training that we've gone through today in improvement methodology. So we'll be able to share that with attendees today. And I think